There comes a moment in every believer's life when the ground beneath them begins to shake. Everything that once felt secure suddenly feels uncertain. The plans you had mapped out no longer make sense. The relationships you relied on begin to shift. The doors you thought would open remain shut. And in that moment, you may be tempted to think that something has gone wrong. You may even begin to question whether you've taken a wrong turn, whether God has abandoned you, whether you misheard His voice. But what if I told you that this shaking, this disruption, is not a sign of abandonment, but a sign of preparation? Look through the pages of Scripture and you will find that every major breakthrough was preceded by a divine disruption. Before God elevated Joseph to the palace, He allowed him to be thrown into a pit. Before God led the Israelites into the promised land, He took them through the wilderness. Before Jesus performed His first miracle, He endured a season of obscurity and testing in the wilderness. Disruption always comes before elevation. This is because God is not just concerned with giving you the blessing, He is concerned with preparing you to handle it. If you receive something too soon, before your character has been refined, before your faith has been tested, before your dependence on Him has been strengthened, then what was meant to be a blessing could become a burden. This is why He allows disruptions. This is why He allows certain things to fall apart. Because sometimes we are holding on to things that cannot go with us into our next season. Think about Abraham. God had a promise for him, a blessing so great that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars. But before Abraham could step into that promise, God called him to leave everything he knew. Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. Genesis 12:01. Imagine the uncertainty. Imagine the questions. Where am I going? How will I know when I get there? What if I lose everything? But Abraham obeyed. He trusted that God's disruption was leading him to something greater. Some of you are in that same place right now. You are in the middle of a season of uncertainty. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe you had a relationship that didn't work out. Maybe the plans you were so confident in have completely unraveled. And the enemy wants you to believe that this is the end. But God is saying this is not the end. It is the beginning of something greater. What if the job that ended was never meant to be your final destination? What if the people who walked away were never meant to be part of your future? What if the plans that fell apart were only a distraction from something better? God is shifting things because He is making room for something bigger than you ever imagined. So when you feel the shaking, when you see things being removed, when life feels uncertain, do not panic. Do not let fear take hold. God is positioning you. He is refining you. He is preparing you for something you cannot yet see. The shaking is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to strengthen you. The doors that are closing are not a punishment. They are a redirection. And when you look back, you will see that every disruption was actually the hand of God leading you straight into your destiny. Before God places something big in your hands, He first prepares you to carry it. He is a loving Father who will never give you more than you are ready for, not because He wants to withhold blessings from you, but because He wants to ensure that when the blessing comes, you are able to sustain it, steward it, and walk in it with wisdom and strength. Too many times people pray for promotion without allowing God to develop them for it. They ask for an increase without preparing for the responsibility that comes with it. But God is not only interested in giving you something great, He is interested in making you great so that when the blessing comes, you are ready to handle it. Look at David. When he was just a young shepherd boy, he was anointed as the future king of Israel. That was a promise from God. But did David step into his kingship right away? No. He was sent right back to the fields to tend sheep. He was called to serve under Saul, the very man who would later turn against him. He spent years running, hiding in caves and facing battles that tested his faith, his character, and his endurance. But all of it was preparation. David didn't just wake up one day and become king. He was shaped, refined, and molded into the leader God needed him to be. God does the same with us. When you ask him for something big, he doesn't just hand it to you. He begins to shape you for it. Maybe you've been asking for a leadership role, but God is first teaching you how to serve. Maybe you've been praying for financial increase, but God is teaching you discipline and stewardship. Maybe you're believing for a God-ordained relationship, but he is first refining your heart so that when that person arrives, you are spiritually and emotionally ready. The waiting season is never wasted. Every challenge, every lesson, every moment of refining is God's way of strengthening your foundation. If the foundation is weak, the weight of the blessing can crush you. That's why he takes the time to prepare you, to stretch you, to build endurance within you. He knows what is ahead, and he is making sure that when the promise arrives, you don't just receive it. You thrive in it. And let me tell you, this process is not always comfortable. Growth is often painful. Refinement requires fire. Endurance is built through trials. But if you stay the course, if you remain faithful, if you allow God to do the deep work within you, you will emerge stronger, wiser, and fully prepared to carry what he has planned for you. Do not despise the preparation. It is proof that something greater is on the way. When God is about to bless you with something big, he doesn't just prepare you, he also sends confirmation. He speaks through his word, through circumstances, through people, and through an undeniable stirring in your spirit that tells you something is about to shift. But at the same time, whenever God is moving, the enemy is also working. The closer you get to your breakthrough, the more distractions, attacks, and resistance you will face. This is why discernment is so important. You must learn to recognize the difference between God's confirmation and the enemy's deception, between divine direction and demonic distraction. Look throughout the Bible and you will see this pattern again and again. When Moses was chosen to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, God confirmed his calling through signs and wonders, but Pharaoh resisted with everything he had. When Nehemiah set out to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, God gave him favor and provision, but opposition arose from all sides to try to stop him. When Jesus stepped into his earthly ministry, he was baptized and affirmed by the voice of God, but immediately after, he was led into the wilderness to be tempted by Satan. This is the pattern of the kingdom. Confirmation comes with opposition, and breakthroughs come with battles. Some of you are in this very place right now. You've sensed that God is leading you into something greater. You've received words of confirmation. You've felt the stirring in your heart. But at the same time, you've faced more challenges than ever before. Things that once came easily now seem to require twice the effort. People who once supported you have suddenly become distant. Fear and doubt have crept in, making you question whether you heard God correctly. But listen to me. Do not let the resistance make you retreat. Do not let the obstacles convince you to quit. If anything, the battle is proof that you are stepping into something powerful. The enemy does not attack what is not a threat. The fact that you are experiencing opposition is a sign that you are moving in the right direction. But you must remain focused. When Nehemiah was rebuilding the wall, his enemies tried every tactic to stop him. They mocked him, they threatened him, they tried to lure him into distractions. But Nehemiah refused to be moved. He kept his eyes on the mission and kept building. That is what you must do. You must guard your mind against the lies of the enemy. You must stand firm in the truth that God has spoken over your life. You must hold on to his promises, even when circumstances seem to say otherwise. And understand this, not everyone will see what God is doing in your life. Not everyone will understand the calling he has placed on you. Sometimes the very people you thought would support you will be the ones who doubt you the most. But that's okay. Your calling is not dependent on their approval. When God calls you, he equips you. When he sets you apart, he provides. When he opens a door, no man can shut it. So don't be discouraged when the opposition comes. Don't be disheartened when the distractions arise. Instead, take it as confirmation that you are on the right path. Keep pressing forward, keep trusting God, and keep your eyes fixed on the promise. Because what he has spoken will come to pass, and no force in hell can stop it. Everything God has promised will come to pass. The waiting, the refining, the battles, and the opposition are not signs of defeat. They are signs that something great is on the horizon. When God is about to give you something big, he prepares you, he confirms it, and he strengthens you for the journey ahead. He does not call you to something without equipping you to handle it. Right now, you may be standing at the edge of your breakthrough, feeling weary from the process, wondering if you have the strength to keep going. But I urge you, do not give up. Do not let fear, doubt, or distractions pull you away from what God is doing in your life. If he has spoken it, he will fulfill it. If he has promised it, he will deliver it. Your job is to trust, to remain faithful, and to walk in obedience. God does not give small dreams to his children. He calls them to things that are bigger than themselves, things that require faith, endurance, and complete dependence on him. So if you are in a season where everything is shifting, where the old is falling away and the new has not yet come, take heart. This is not the end. This is the preparation for something greater. Stand firm, stay expectant, keep pressing forward, because what God is about to do in your life is bigger than you can imagine. And when it happens, you will look back and know it was worth every moment of the wait.